Welcome, everyone. Let's dive into a fascinating and quite controversial topic, the history behind Flavius Josephus and his accidental impact on Christian history.
Right, this topic really shakes up traditional narratives. So, we're looking at how a Jewish historian's text might have been altered, correct?
Exactly. Josephus, born around 37 CE, was a Pharisee and later a general in the Jewish war against Rome. His life took a dramatic turn when he prophesied Vespasian would become emperor, which, well, it did. That turned his fortunes around big time.
And then he became Flavius Josephus with Roman citizenship and all that, right?
Yep, that's correct. He spent the rest of his career under imperial patronage, writing in Greek about Jewish history. His major works, The Jewish War and Antiquities of the Jews, became key texts, especially for those looking for non-biblical evidence for Jesus.
But here's the kicker. While many have hailed Josephus as offering undeniable proof of Jesus' existence, it turns out there are serious doubts.
Right, and that's where things get spicy. In Antiquities, especially Book 18, the so-called Testimonium Flavianum, Josephus seemingly confirms Jesus was the Christ, and even mentions his resurrection. But that reading seems wildly out of character for a devout Jew like him.
Exactly. Because Josephus never converted and remained loyal to Jewish traditions. How could he suddenly assert something that sounds like a Christian miracle?
That's the burning question. This particular passage includes phrases like, "He was the Christ," and "He appeared alive again the third day," which frankly sound more like a Sunday sermon than a historical account. It's almost too perfect for Christian apologetics.
So, are we saying that this passage may have been, tampered with later on?
Precisely. Many scholars argue that this passage was edited, possibly by Christian scribes, after Josephus's death. It's like someone took a historical account and, spiced it up to serve later theological agendas.
And this editing isn't just a matter of style, it's potentially rewriting history. It makes you wonder, what did Josephus originally write?
Absolutely. For instance, we have a 10th century Arabic version from Agapius of Hierapolis, which is considerably milder. It presents Jesus as a wise man and teacher without proclaiming him the Christ.
That's a significant difference. Instead of an unequivocal divine statement, it just suggests maybe he was a remarkable figure.
Right, and many scholars like Shlomo Pines and John Meyer lean toward that milder version as being closer to what Josephus originally intended. The embellishments, like the resurrection claims, likely came later.
But one might ask, isn't it a bit risky to assume that these changes were entirely nefarious? What if Josephus had a moment of enlightenment that led him to express those views?
That's a fair challenge, but consider this. Josephus was a staunch Pharisee. It's highly unlikely he would endorse a claim that runs directly counter to his lifelong beliefs. It just doesn't add up.
And then there's the other reference, the brief mention of James, the brother of Jesus. Even that snippet with the phrase, "who was called Christ," feels similarly questionable.
Correct. In Antiquities, Book 20, when Josephus talks about James, the phrase seems like a later insertion, something added to align with the emerging Christian narrative, even though Josephus was writing for a Roman audience. It's almost like an afterthought from a later hand.
So basically, if these passages are indeed later insertions by Christian editors, then the so-called non-biblical evidence for the historical Jesus collapses, doesn't it?
That's the crux of the matter. If Josephus didn't originally write these glowing passages, then we lose our key external, non-Christian witness to Jesus' existence from the first century. It shifts a lot of the narrative.
Wow, so this has enormous implications for how we view early Christianity, right?
Exactly. Without a verified external confirmation from someone like Josephus, we're left with only the Christian sources to attest to Jesus' life, and those come with their own agenda.
And that's what makes this so theoretically explosive. It's not just about textual criticism. It's about, in a sense, undermining the earliest case for the historical Jesus.
Right you are. It raises fundamental questions. If history gets rewritten, then how do we know what really happened? It's like peeling back layers that have been added over centuries. And the implications for theological debates, they're huge.
It reminds me of the delicate balance between preserving original texts and the inevitable human interference over time.
Precisely. And we must remember that church copyists were known to harmonize manuscripts to remove contradictions. Bart Ehrman, for example, has highlighted how widespread deliberate alterations were in the New Testament. History in this case is not absolute. It's filtered through centuries of revisions.
So, if the Testimonium was edited or even invented in full by later Christian hands, then it's essentially a perfect piece of propaganda that turned speculation into evidence.
Exactly, and it's a testament to how narratives can shape or even distort our understanding of history. Imagine a simple paragraph transformed into a cornerstone for proving a divine message. It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it?
It does indeed. And it shows how historical evidence can be as malleable as clay if there's enough motivation behind the editing.
Right, it's like someone taking a basic blueprint and then adding all sorts of details to serve a particular agenda. The transformation of Josephus's text is a prime example, and it challenges us to reassess what we take at face value.
Now, some scholars, like Richard Carrier, even argue that the whole passage might be a later insertion. That's a pretty radical stance, isn't it?
It is radical, but it's also reflective of the mounting evidence scholars have presented. The fact that every surviving Greek manuscript includes the Christianized version makes it very suspicious.
Right, exactly.
It's the pattern of editing that tells us a lot.
And yet, some might counter that later interpolations don't necessarily negate that an original reference ever existed. How do we weigh that argument?
That's a tricky line. If a smaller, more neutral core once existed, something like, at that time there was a wise man named Jesus, then it might have been modified over time. But the mere fact that the strongest elements, the miraculous claims, aren't original weakens the case considerably. It's a tough balance.
It really is. And it also exposes how impermanent our historical records can be, especially when vested interests drive the copyists' pens.
Exactly. The whole saga of Josephus's testimony is a microcosm of historical rewriting. How narratives are remixed to fit new contexts as power shifts and new regimes emerge.
True.
It's eye-opening, to say the least.
So what we're really seeing is a potent lesson in the responsibility of preserving history. If we let our biases steer our manuscripts, then future generations might end up with a very different picture.
Exactly. It's like history is a living document, but not if it's been, well, edited beyond recognition. And that's why understanding the true origins of these texts matters so much.
Yep, absolutely. It really makes you wonder. If Josephus could speak now, perhaps he'd say, "I wrote history, but you turned it into theology." How do we even begin to recover what was once true?